I never thought I'd say this sentence out loud. Indiana is favored over Alabama in the Rose Bowl. I mean, that's not a gimmick. It's not a feel-good story. I mean, so we're not asking who wins. We're asking who's real. That's what I want to know. Who's real in this case? Because, I mean, do they still scare you? Or is the aura officially gone? Does the Oklahoma comeback story that happened last game, does that give you a lot of belief in Bama?
Oh, absolutely not. I do not feel the same way about Bama that I have in quite some time. And I think the biggest thing for me is the SEC championship this season. If you want to look at this team in particular, obviously the Florida State loss at the beginning of the season was kind of that first bad taste in the mouth. And then they lost to Oklahoma, but then they got them back. But they're a 3-loss team going into this playoff, with the loss to Florida State, Oklahoma, and then Georgia in the SEC championship. And as much as I realize, the conference championship should not impact how you're kind of perceived in the playoff, I understand that. I do have that same stance, honestly. They were embarrassed by Georgia. It was ugly. I was watching it, and honestly, I don't watch a ton of SEC championship games because they kind of all play out about the same. This one was ugly. It was disgusting, to be completely honest. So, no, I don't feel confident in Alabama at all. This Indiana team, I think that there was a lot of question about what were they, having not really played a ton of big games last year. The big conversation was they schedule a bunch of cupcakes. They get into the playoff. They lose. Like, it's whatever. That's the key now to making the playoffs, is just play a bunch of nobodies. And then this year it was like, well, what has Indiana actually done? Who have they actually beat? They beat Iowa? Like, what is that actually worth? And I'll tell you what, beating Iowa is worth basically nothing. We're going to move on. But then they beat Ohio State, and that was awesome. Like that, okay, they can actually beat somebody. So, like, no, I don't have any belief in Alabama at this point. I am all in on the Hoosier train. And it really does kind of stem from the fact that Alabama they were embarrassed in the SEC championship game, plain and simple.
Yeah, that's interesting. When I think about the SEC championship game, obviously the score doesn't help, and obviously how Georgia got to Ty Simpson doesn't help as well. Right, exactly. I get that, but they were missing a lot of starters. If I'm just trying to think of how Bama fans might react to this, they were missing a lot of starters, and this is one of those games where I feel like you're expected to lose. Like Alabama feels like they're expected to lose. And this is the game that I think a lot of Bama fans love, when you are expected to be the underdog. I'm sure Alabama loves to be the underdog, because that hasn't happened a lot in the last couple decades. Everyone's jumping on Indiana. You got to love coming back to those. I'm sure that if Indiana loses this game mightily, I'm sure the comments are going to be right on after you, Nick. In this one, I think Alabama thrives as the hunter, not as the favor. I truly do. I think they've done it as Saban. I think even with DeBoer, I think they're going to thrive as the hunter. Indiana has never played a team with Alabama's survival ability, if you want to put that into perspective, because look what happened last week against Oklahoma. I completely counted them out after the first quarter. I completely did. So is this the same movie where everyone talks themselves into fading Bama? I know that's what you're kind of doing right now. And then something breaks late, like it happened against Oklahoma. Like, where's your process right now? Is it the same movie, or is it different?
Well, I was actually looking through some of these numbers because, I'm a huge vibes guy. Like, I think that's pretty well known at this point. That's how I work. But I do love looking through some stats. When was the last time that Alabama beat, or per ESPN analytics, was a 28.6% chance of winning a game? Like that is a pretty heavy favorite for Indiana. It's not as close as I thought it was going to be. And then I looked ahead at some actual stats, some like high level stuff that I have to break out my readers for. And it's all right here. It makes complete sense why they're 28% chance to win this game. You mentioned there, do I have to convince myself or whatever of Alabama winning this or losing this game, fading Alabama? I was never under the impression they would win this game. And if Indiana, completely fumbles and all the Alabama, stands want to come after me, do it. I'll be wrong. But guess what? Yeah. Right now, it is not like it's not a question in my mind. Can Alabama keep up? Can Alabama keep this even remotely close and respectable? Because remember the conversation when they joined into the playoff and they stuck their way in, they're a 3-loss team. It's going to show against Indiana. This is absolutely going to be a one-sided affair. And if it's not, I'm wrong. I don't care. But I'm telling you right now, I don't see it going down any other way.
What Curt Cignetti has been really impressive. And Indiana's not like some Cinderella story either, although like you might think that just based on the history of their program, but they're not cute. They're not a Cinderella story. Like they're a legit team. And if you've seen some interviews in the past of Mendoza, right? Like he is so prepared. His football IQ is super impressive. I mean, if you're a Bama fan, I think you have to respect Mendoza. I think you just have to respect the way that he plays the game. I think he does it the right way. Is Indiana actually maybe? I mean, this is probably I don't know if I want to actually ask. I'm gonna do it anyways. Are they the most prepared team in college football? Like maybe not the most talented, right? But the most intentional. Curt Cignetti, I think, has them on a different level this way.
That's definitely, you nailed it on the head there, which is, it's a very interesting way of phrasing it, but that is how this team feels. It just feels like they're so well prepared. They're that gift under the Christmas tree, if you will, to, kind of think back over the last few days. That's like perfectly wrapped. All of the seams, it's very square. It's a perfect cube too. It's not some oblong box, which, I mean, who doesn't love the oblong boxes? They might have a snowboard in them, but it's a perfect cube with the bow directly on the top. It's like there is nothing wrong with this package. It just all makes sense. And that's exactly what it feels like with this Indiana team. Very much bulletproof, prepared, as opposed to high level talent that's going to beat you, but they're going to have mistakes. They're going to make, they might miss here, but they're going to get you here because they've got an explosive capability. You nailed it. This is probably the most prepared team in college football. And I don't know if it's Curt Cignetti. Maybe it is Fernando Mendoza. You talked about how much football knowledge he has. He's also a great leader. But that I think is going to come into this game absolutely in a very big way. You have this, we brought this up a little bit before the show. Does Indiana have to make a mistake, or does Alabama have to be perfect, or what's the question there? I think Indiana has to make a multitude of mistakes for Indiana or for Alabama to be in this game. And with this perfection, kind of preparedness, I don't see that happening. I think they're a very sound football team.
Yeah, I mean, there's been two sides of Alabama this year. We've seen them where they have come back against Oklahoma, where they've been great. And then we've seen the SEC championship game. We've seen the Florida State game. We've seen moments where Alabama does not shine whatsoever. You could either say they're precise or they're dead. I mean, they can't run consistently. That's something that's been a problem. They can't live in third and long because that's when pressure comes. And we've seen that happen in the SEC championship game be an issue. They can't rely on QB processing or disguise pressures. If receivers drop passes, they're doomed. Because I think Ty Simpson does a very good job at getting it to their wide receivers. But how many drops does Ryan Williams have this year? I mean, there's been so many drops just for him alone. If they drop passes and they give Indiana a chance to continue any momentum they might have, I think they're doomed. And then honestly, I think you have to give Mendoza pressure. Can you do that? Well, you led the game in sacks against Oklahoma, where I thought it was going to be the flip side. You sacked Mateer 5 times. Can you do the same thing against the Heisman Trophy winner in Mendoza? And that's where I want to finish this conversation here. Heisman pressure versus, I guess, playoff scar tissue, as you will. Heisman winners often struggle their next game after, being named the Heisman Trophy winner. And Mendoza has been clean. He's a pretty clean quarterback. He's not flashy. We've mentioned he's very intentional with his game. Does this happen? Do you think that this is more of a fact where, the Heisman Trophy pressure gets to you, or that's just something he's not focused on? Who do you trust more? A guy who's been flawless in Mendoza, or a team that survives disasters yet again, like Alabama did against Oklahoma?
Well, really quick before I get to that answer, I want to bring something up really, it just kind of popped in my brain as you were breaking that whole situation down. Alabama has shown weakness this season multiple times. Do you really think Curt Cignetti is not going to dive into that tape and have this Indiana team completely ready to go? Like there's just, I trust Curt Cignetti to a fault. And I'm not even an Indiana fan. Like something about the dude, he knows what he's doing. And when it comes to Mendoza versus Simpson, it's not going to be, same thing. Honestly, it's not even worth really talking about. I trust Mendoza here. I don't trust any part of Alabama. I've seen too much in these games that are too big and even honestly, early on in the Oklahoma game, like that game, I know Alabama ended up winning that, but it was ugly from the start. Like just give me everything give me everything Indiana, Curt Cignetti, Fernando Mendoza, it's not really a conversation to me. If this ends up being a great game, I will be happily wrong. Okay. I will eat that up. But for right now, I don't think this is going to be too much competition.
All right, clip this. Come back after the game and tell us who is real here because I want to know. So, like when it's in the fourth quarter and it's tight, remember this conversation because it's not
Tweet
about
at me,
talent.
man.
I don't know if it's about talent. And I think it's belief under pressure. And you mentioned about Indiana. They're very intentional. Kirk Cignetti gives you that old school football kind of vibes. You're a vibes guy, that's sure. But at the same time, you know, whether you want to say it's the color of the helmet or not, just the logo, whatever it is, Alabama is still Alabama. And they found a way to do it last time against Oklahoma. And everybody counted them out after that first quarter. We'll see if that changes.
You get one.
And, well, maybe you get two. Maybe you get two. We'll find out. It'll be interesting. This game, I think, is the most intriguing game of the weekend for me, without question.